Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the BettingPros NFL podcast. I'm your host, Dan Harris. You can find me on Twitter at DanHarris80. We are back and better than ever for the 2020 NFL season. Today, we are going to be talking about some AFC futures. Next week, some NFC futures. And then, boom, we are into week one. With me to break it all down is Matt Perrault, host of the BettingPros' very own Daily Juice podcast and pushing the odds over at SportsMap Radio. You can find him on Twitter at SportsTalkMatt. Matt, what's up?
What's up? This is our officially this is our first time doing a pod together since I've joined BettingPros, right? This is
are you excited?
Groundbreaking.
Are you excited? Because
I'm really excited. I'm ecstatic. It's great. It's so fun. It's football, man. We're talking football. How about that?
Thank goodness. I'm not kidding. I need some football, and I need it right now. Before we get into it, can you talk a little bit about the Daily Juice podcast? Because, I mean, I know that obviously, I listen to it every day, and it's done for BettingPros, but it's awesome. Tell everybody a little bit about it.
Sure. We do it every day. It's a 15-minute podcast that drops. I'm on the West Coast, so I drop it at about 11:30 every night. So if you're on the East Coast, when you get up in the morning, it'll be there right there for you. And it's essentially a breakdown of games that I like each and every day, and we're making plays. Normally, there's 3 to 5 plays in every podcast that we're making, and we bounce around. It's not geared towards one sport. It's not geared towards one type of betting. It's kind of all over the place. So we have kind of the whole field to go run around in. We can do like first 5 unders in baseball, or we can do hockey overs, or we can play individual periods, and it's just been really fun because August has been such an incredible run with so many sports to bet on that it's been great. I mean, when we started in July, it was a little slim pickings with just like UFC and NASCAR and golf. And now we've got just everything. So it's been really fun. The response has been incredible. I can't believe how many different people are listening and writing.
You're international, man. Everybody's coming from
crazy,
all over
right?
the place.
I mean, so many international listeners and whatnot. So it's been the most rewarding thing I've done in my now 6-year career in sports gambling and with content creation. It's been the most rewarding thing I've done so far, getting it off the ground as quickly as it's just exploded in 8 weeks. We just did our 50th episode, and it's been so fun. So it's a huge compliment to you guys. You've done a great job of publicizing it and making it so accessible to people who go to bettingpros.com. So it's been super fun.
That's true. I do deserve all the credit, and
yes,
I appreciate you.
It was your idea.
It was my idea, actually. You're right, but I was smart enough to have you host it and not me. Yeah, it is really great, and again, it touches on all sports. UFC. You've been ingrained in the sports betting universe for most of your adult life. So you really, I don't know anything about betting on the UFC, but it's great to listen to. And I feel like just whatever it is, I'm so much more informed generally, like regardless of anything. So it's great. And I'm sure you'll be talking about NFL during the year, but we are going to be talking about the NFL on this podcast. We'll get into a little bit more about what we're going to be doing during the season next week when we break down the NFC. But for now, we're going to do the AFC preview. Now, we did do an AFC preview, not me and Matt, but I did an AFC preview several months ago, well before the draft even, so some things might have changed a little bit, including the actual numbers that we're going to be looking at. So we'll go division by division here. We'll talk about what we like, what we don't like, with regard to the over-unders. Now, we're going to be using the consensus odds over at bettingpros.com. That is the aggregate of the odds that are available in the market. You can see the individual odds at the various sports books that make up the consensus odds, so you can shop around always. But those are the numbers that we're going to be doing. Those are over at bettingpros.com/NFL-wins. You can find everything on that page. If you look on the left, you can find team futures, player props, etc. Now, like I said, you're going to be able to see a bunch of different books. For example, I am in New Hampshire. The only book I can actually bet on is DraftKings, which you will see the odds there. But you're also going to see BetMGM odds. Those are one of the odds that make up the consensus odds. And what you really should do is go to bettingpros.com/BetMGM. When you go there, you can sign up for a BetMGM account. And they have this great offer right now where they're going to match your first deposit for new signups up to $500 in free bets. That's free money. That's not how gambling is supposed to work, but that's exactly what it is with BetMGM. Remember, bettingpros.com/BetMGM. Sign up for an account. Get a first deposit match up to $500. Visit BetMGM.com for the terms and conditions. Got to be 21 years or older and physically located in Colorado, Indiana, New Jersey, Nevada, or West Virginia. Please gamble responsibly. If you've got a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado and Nevada, 1-800-GAMBLER in New Jersey and West Virginia, or 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Okay, Let's go here. Start with the AFC East. This is our division, okay? Matt is a Patriots fan. I am a Jets fan. Matt despises the Bills and thinks they are overrated completely if you have ever listened to him talk about anything. So, Matt, let's talk about it. Consensus odds over here. I'll just go through one by one. Then you're going to tell me which one of them, if any, the over-under you like. Patriots are over-under 9.5. Now, this has obviously moved up since when we first did it because the signing of Cam Newton changed things. Even with all the losses on defense, 9.5, it is juiced to the over at minus 143, even on the under. Bills are over-under 9, juiced towards the over at minus 143, plus 118 on the under. Jets are at over-under 6.5, juiced toward the under at minus 125, over at plus 110. And the Dolphins are over-under at 6, even for the under, plus 110 for the over. So, Matt, other than you've got to certainly hate the Bills, right? Because no matter what, the over-under would be on the Bills. You'd be like, under. It'd be like 4.5 wins, under. Don't like them. What's your play here?
Look, for me, the play is the Jets. And I think the Jets, and I know people might go, well, it's a low number. I think the Jets are going to be really bad, and I think they're okay with being really bad. And I think when you look at the defense and you look at the schedule, I see 4 wins on that schedule for the New York Jets. And so I'm not – I mean, this is a big year for Sam Darnold. They got a bunch of first-round picks coming up in the next couple of years that they could use on a quarterback if they want to. Darnold needs to stop throwing interceptions. And I think Adam Gase is a horrible coach. So I'm very much down on the New York Jets. I'm on the under for the Jets. That was a pick on the Daily Juice we gave out that I think if you could find 6.5, I go under on the Jets here. I just think they're going to be – they'll be – towards the bottom. They'll probably be a little bit better than the Dolphins, but not a whole lot better than the Dolphins.
Does it change your mind of the fact that they traded for Kalen Ballage before we got on?
Totally, yes.
I mean,
look out. 10 wins. Huge.
So I'm actually surprised. This hasn't moved from 6. It might have been 7, I guess, at one point, but I've seen it at 6.5 pretty much throughout. I kind of liked them a little bit, but not anymore. But before sort of everything that's happened lately, I kind of like them. I mean, they were 7-9 last year, and they were terrible. They weren't as good as a 7-9 team. They had no offensive line whatsoever last year. They played 3 games without Darnold at all. And this year, they obviously rebuilt the offensive line, when they drafted Becton and Greg Van Roten and McGovern and George Fant. Chris Herndon is a player I really like at tight end. I like Jamison Crowder. They lost Robbie Anderson. They replaced him with Brashad Perriman. They drafted Denzel Mims. But again, Mims now is dealing with a hamstring, and that was all before they traded Jamal Adams, which, by the way, they did get a pretty good haul considering he was in a point where they really could have held him and done whatever they wanted, but they got a pretty good haul for him. But then, CJ Mosley opted out. It's just no good. It's no good. And they have, putting aside, they're not going to be a good team. They have a terrible schedule, as you mentioned. They're out west 2 straight weeks, by the way, in Seattle and Los Angeles. That's just I don't know. It's a shot at them. I'm surprised it hasn't moved much. I get that it's juiced. They're trying to get you. They're trying to get you to take the over. It's plus 110. So
yeah.
I get it. But yeah, that's my favorite one too. And the guy, my boss is listening to this because he's like a closet Jets fan, and he's definitely going to be mad at me. But I agree. I like them kind of at the over. I thought they'd get 7-8 wins, but now I'm firmly on the under.
I think that the popular play is the Patriots on the under, right? I think a lot of people have faded the Patriots with 9.5 wins, and I don't really hate that play. If I was going to take a second play to bet on, I think it would be the Patriots at 9 wins.
Okay.
9.5, that hook I think matters. I think 9-7 is a legitimate record for the Patriots, given the number of people who have opted out on that defense, Dante Hightower and whatnot. They've drafted well, but historically speaking, Patriot players don't step in right away and contribute, in particular on the offensive side of the football. But they've got Damian Harris, who's been getting more and more reps, who seems to be taking the place of Sony Michel, who has been sort of the bane of Patriot fans for a long time about his inability to break tackles and have a big home run hitter at the running back spot. So maybe it's an Alabama back that will come in here and help that Patriot offense out. But I think the biggest X factor is just the play calling with Cam Newton at the quarterback spot. Jared Stidham was never going to start for the Patriots. It was always going to be Cam Newton. So I think the play calling is going to look a lot like when they had Jimmy Garoppolo back in the Deflategate years, when you had a chance to roll them out, to get them on the edge, edge, get him up against a linebacker or a cornerback and let him go make a play. So I do expect the offense to be a little bit better than people think, but the defense, I'm worried about the defense for the Patriots because of the number of players that they've lost due to COVID-19 opt-out. So I think the Patriots going 9-7 and either tying for the division or winning the division is very likely, but that's why people liking Buffalo to win 10 games potentially and win the division at 10-6 is not a crazy statement. I don't like Josh Allen at all. So, I mean, to me, Patriots under 9.5 is not a horrible play either.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch the Patriots. I think when I look at the, all of their parts, it's not a 10-win team. So I would be fine to go under, but I'm not going to do it. Like I'm not going to bet against Belichick or McDaniels figuring out a way to max. And they have maybe from top to bottom the worst group of pass catchers in the NFL when you really sort of look at it, considering everything. But I don't know how much any of that matters. Like it really, the hits that their defense took and everything like that. I don't know. If they
they're going to run the ball. I mean, they're not going to throw the ball much with Cam. That's why they brought Cam in. I mean, they're going to throw. I mean, Edelman will get his catches, and they like the 2 tight ends they drafted, who are coming in. But I think that N'Keal Harry might take a big step forward in year 2. You hope, because a first-round pick at wide receiver. So you hope with Cam Newton, maybe there's more trust there. Brady didn't trust him at all, so maybe there's a step forward for him in his career. But they're going to try to beat people, 23-20. They're just not going to beat the Chiefs. They're not going to try to run. I mean, unders on Patriot games probably are going to be pretty successful to bet on just because of the way they're going to try to play this year.
Yeah, no, I like it. So I think the one play that we both really like is under on the Jets 6.5 wins. I'm surprised. Like, I'll be honest, Matt. Like, not that I monitor sort of the market, but I follow sharp bettors, and you're pretty in tune. Do you know anybody who knows what they're doing who's on the over on the Jets? Because I just hear everybody is on the under.
Yeah, it's either a no play or an underplay. I don't think you can realistically bet the over on the Jets, just given what we're talking about. And look, Adam Gase, Le'Veon Bell on Twitter being angry about practices and I'm used to go type stuff. I mean, it's just there's a whole lot of problems and red flags around that franchise.
Coach, Matt. He's a terrible coach. And I said this, and I joked not to get on a tangent. We'll move on now. But I said this when they were considering who to hire. And it was between him and Mike McCarthy. Now, to Mike McCarthy's absolute credit, he has gone into Dallas and he has said, I'm not implementing my own system. I'm going to trust what Kellen Moore is doing, and I'm leaving that there. That's to his credit. But I knew if they signed McCarthy, that's like a 4-year hire minimum, right? He can't tank for a year or two and you can be like on. With Gase, I was like, okay, fine. Try it with Gase. See what happens. He brought the Dolphins to the playoffs that one time. If he's terrible, you can ditch him after a year and a half, which is exactly what they're going to do, right? I mean, if maybe he survives this season, but he's not going to be the coach of the Jets next season. So
yeah, no, I agree.
I'm fine letting him burn this whole thing to the ground. I do like Darnold. I'm a little bullish on him. I think he's been put in a tough situation for a long time, but hopefully he can at least show some promise with the offensive line. All right, let's move to the north here. Ravens over under 11.5, even on the over, minus 106 on the under. Steelers over under 9. Both sides are even. Browns over under 8.5, juiced to the over a bit, minus 125, even on the under. And the Bengals over under 5.5. Over is minus 134, under at plus 110. So who do you like in the north?
Look, I understand that people think that Zach Taylor is going to be a good coach, but I covered Zach Taylor at Nebraska. He's a very smart dude. Dad's a coach. Football mind, not a head coach. Not right now. Too young. Too much, too early. And now you're giving him a quarterback he has to play in Joe Burrow, who I like, who will be a good quarterback down the road. I'm on the under 5.5 wins for the Bengals. I think they're going to be terrible. I mean, you can't work the way you normally would work with a rookie, and you still have the number 1 pick, so you have to play the number 1 pick, and you must put him in a position against NFL defenses where he must read defenses. I think this is going to be a bad year for the Bengals. I don't know, in that division playing, the Steelers and the Ravens, I mean, where are the wins coming for that team? I think everyone's expecting Joe Burrow to be LSU Joe Burrow, and I don't see it. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm on the under for the Bengals.
I can see 4 games, right? 4 games kind of hit me. The Redskins, the Jaguars. Oh, not the Redskins. Sorry, the Washington football team. Sorry, my mistake. The Washington football team, the Jaguars, the Dolphins, and the Giants. I don't really know what else they do to get some wins there. It's not a good team. Now, especially this year, this is a year where when you don't have the preseason games, right? You got a rookie quarterback coming in, learning it. It's really tough. It is really, really tough. They have, getting Jonah Williams back is going to help the offensive line. They spent a lot of money on their defense coming in. But again, this is a just a terrible division for them to be playing in, because you have at least two really strong teams, maybe a third with the Browns. So, yeah, I like it. Out of curiosity, because I do have leans on each of the other one. The Bengals, I lean under, but it's not one. All right, let's go one by one. Ravens over under 11.5. How do you feel about it?
Look, I think because of the continuity that the Ravens have, you play the over there, but It's so steep. I mean, it's just so tough. I mean, 12 games. I mean, could I see them go 11-5? Absolutely. Yeah. I just think when you have Harbaugh and you have the reigning MVP and you've got that running game and they got deeper at running back in the draft, that's a really scary team to go up against. I mean, they're going to, in particular in this given pandemic year, the Ravens are really scary to bet the under there. So it's a no play, but I would go over if I had to.
I'm okay to go over on this, which is crazy because you're like, great, I'm betting on this team to win 12 wins. They obviously had 14 last year. But yeah, like you said, they got better everywhere, pretty much. They addressed their deficiencies even that they had in their defense. I think their defense is going to be even better. And you mentioned it as the continuity. There are 4 teams in the AFC who have the same head coach, the same offensive coordinator, the same quarterback, the same top 2 wide receivers. The Ravens are one of them. It's a team. Look, even if Jackson got injured, obviously you're not excited about Robert Griffin III, but he could run that offense pretty well in terms of knowing exactly how to do it. He's the same style of quarterback. So I just think in the end there would be something where I'd be willing to go. How do you feel about the Steelers at over under 9?
It's interesting because the receiving core, they had a couple of guys last year who didn't perform because of the injury with Ben Roethlisberger that they thought would step up and be bigger weapons inside that offense. And you look at the running game and, the defense. I really have a tough time with this team because if Roethlisberger comes back and plays at, vintage Ben Roethlisberger, they could be really difficult to go up against. It's just I don't know what Ben's got left in the tank, and I don't know about the arm. I mean, the arm was pretty serious. That injury was pretty serious to him. So I'm staying away until I see what Ben Roethlisberger looks like. I guess if I had to bet it, I'd bet the under to have them go 8-8. But until we see Roethlisberger, I've got no clue what that team's going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, they went 8-8 last year, man. I mean, and you and I could have been playing quarterback, and we probably would have been just fine. So I agree. This is one where I would love to be able to see a preseason game, right? Yeah. I would love to be able to see what it looks like when Roethlisberger throws the football. But I don't know, man. With that defense, strong offensive line, again, continuity, right? Other than the fact that Roethlisberger only started the one game last year. It really is something where this is a team where I think they could really make some noise. If Roethlisberger, he doesn't have to be what he was. And my guess is they are not going to be this team that throws it a million times and airs it out like crazy quite as much. Because, that elbow injury, that's a serious injury. But, Connor is great in the passing game, too. You can see dump-offs. I think, Juju Smith-Schuster, people are kind of like, oh, I don't know. Last year. I really like Deontay Johnson. He's a great route runner. And James Washington there. I kind of like the addition of Eric Ebron. He's not my favorite tight end, but I do think that adds a little dimension. They still have Vance McDonald. So, again, strong defense. That's a team that I kind of like to go over the 9 wins. I don't love it, but I lean that way. And I do want to touch on the Browns 8.5 because people are excited about the Browns right now and not as excited as they were last year. But, obviously Kevin Stefanski coming in. He's a first-year head coach, but he ran the offense in Minnesota last year, and it works. The type of things he's going to do for Mayfield. They've rebuilt the offensive line a bit. There are going to be a lot of play-action passes. They've got a lot of good things going on. Are you in on over on the 8.5 of the Browns?
I would bet the over if I had to. It's a no play because of the fact that it's a brand new coaching staff, and it's Mayfield's 3rd new offense, right, already?
Yeah.
Him coming in, 3rd new head coach. So, I mean, this is really a lot of turnover. It's a lot of changes for a young quarterback who has to prove it this year. I mean, he's got a lot of attention on him because, he likes the attention, but also because of how badly things went last year for them. So, I mean, OBJ is going to have a big year. I really do think he's going to step out and really show out and play well. I think the addition of an offensive-minded coach to be the head coach is really going to work better. I think a guy who's got more respect in the locker room also, I think, will work out better. The defensive line for the Browns, they've invested so much draft capital on that defensive line. Those guys have got to play better. They've got to be the leader of that defense and really wreak havoc this year. And they might be able to do that given the fact that teams aren't able to practice. So I'm expecting the Browns to be better, but it's Mayfield and injuries and the division, right? I mean, you're playing the Browns, you're playing the Steelers twice and the Ravens twice. So that's difficult. And you could go technically 0-4 in those games and really put your bet in jeopardy with the road games and the other non-division games that they've got. So I would bet the over. but I wouldn't do it just because I'm concerned about a new head coach coming in and not having his system in place.
Yeah, again, it's a lean over for me. I'm not super excited about it. And obviously, they're already dealing with a pretty big injury in their secondary with Greedy Williams. So it is something, though, where, I was optimistic last year. I was kind of buying into it. And obviously, it was a complete disaster. I like the addition of Austin Hooper, too. I don't think Hooper is really an elite tight end athletically at the very least, but I think adding him with Njoku, they're going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets. So I do think that the offense is going to be pretty efficient, and it's going to suit Baker well if, again, everybody can focus and they can get off to a good start. Again, it's one of these teams where if you get off to a bad start like last year, things could just go south really quickly. So I think getting off to a fast start is important for them. Let's go into the South here. This is an interesting division. Colts over under 9, juiced toward the over, -117, even on the under. Titans over under 8.5. Over is -130, plus 107 on the under. Texans at over under 7.5, -106 on the over, -115 on the under. And the Jaguars over under 4.5, -130 on the over, even on the under. What do you think here?
All right, I think you and I might be on the same page here because this was another Daily Juice gave a couple of weeks ago. I love the Titans here, and the Titans over 8.5 wins. I just think this is a team that after they got the taste of it last year, going on a deep playoff run, I think Henry getting his new contract is big. He wants to get out there and prove it. I like the receiving core a lot. The defense is stellar, and Mike Vrabel, I think, is coming into his own. He might be the best Patriot tree, Belichick tree disciple, and he didn't coach under Belichick. He played under him, which is the big difference between him and everybody else that's come through the Belichick tree in the Belichick regime, if you will, in New England. I am bullish on the Titans this year.
Yeah, I like them too. I do. And again, this is one of these teams where you've got continuity, and that is a huge thing coming in. Same head coach, offensive coordinator, quarterback, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. I love A.J. Brown. I really like, we do fantasy, obviously. So A.J. Brown is one of my guys. Another guy that we work with loves Jonnu Smith, who I agree is very athletic, talented. They made Henry happy. He's going to be able, with the deal, they're going to run it. I like Ryan Tannehill. Is he going to be as efficient as he was last year? No, because you can't possibly be that efficient as he was last year. But he's a very solid NFL quarterback. He can do what they want to do. So I do like them a lot, especially at 8.5. Now, the Colts were at 8.5 earlier in the offseason. Yep. I like that. What do you think about the Colts? Because I'm pretty bullish on the Colts prospects this year as well.
So, yeah, all right. So, look, you're bringing in Phillip Rivers to come in to replace a quarterback that Jacoby Brissett they thought was going to be the answer, and he turned out to be not the answer. He was good in the beginning and then not very good at the end. So they bring in a guy who has 1 or 2 years left. But Rivers is going to play because he wants to keep going, and he wants to prove he's got a lot left in the tank. It's much similar to Brady in where Brady is in terms of, okay, it's a prove-it year, right? Okay, how good were you? Rivers has a Hall of Fame career. He's got a Hall of Fame resume, but he doesn't have that championship on his finger, and he wants it desperately. This is a team with an insane offensive line, a very good running game, a good receiving core, and you look at some of the games, the Colts are a very fun team to bet on every week because they do a great job of covering the spread. They're very good against the spread, and this is supposed to be Andrew Luck's team, so it was built for a passing quarterback like Phillip Rivers, and the defense took a couple nice steps forward last year. I love the coaching staff. The continuity is there from the coaching staff perspective, even though it's a new team, a new quarterback for this team, but if I had to bet it, I would bet the over, and I can't wait to watch these Titans and Colts games because I think the Texans are in trouble, and I think these two teams are going to do war this year for this division.
Yeah, I love the Colts. I really did. I have all offseason. I very much, we joked about it a lot over on the Fantasy Pro side about what does Rivers have left. I don't think that mid-year came last year and he just suddenly fell apart. It does happen. You saw Peyton Manning obviously fall apart towards the end of his second to last year, and then he just rolled right in and was terrible for his final year. I don't think that's Rivers. I think it was the offensive line. I've mentioned it before. He was just getting bruised and battered. He can't escape from anybody because the guy can barely move. Right. The offensive line is just it's built for him. What they are, the offensive line. They have, I love Jonathan Taylor, and again, Marlon Mack. He's a quality back. They still have Nyheim Hines. You know how Rivers likes to pass to the running backs. I like their receiving core. I like adding Michael Pittman Jr. a lot. You've got that Mike Williams big receiver that you can sort of use. I'm a fan of Paris Campbell as well. I realize he's already kind of dealing with injury, but I think this could be a big year for him. I like T.Y. Hilton. Everything about them. They traded for DeForest Buckner. Rivers, there's no preseason games, but Rivers is familiar with the system, right? Because Nick Sirianni and Frank Reich, he's played under them. He knows it. this is a team that I really, really like. So I think I lean to, I mean, 10 wins is a big number. Like, that is something that I think casual bettors don't really think about that much.
Right.
They're like, oh, yeah, sure. 10 wins, like, a lot of things have to go right for you to get to 10 wins necessarily. But I'm really, like you, I'm excited to see the Colts and the Titans.
Well, the running game, too. I mean, I think through the draft, they added talent. I mean, I just think early, they may not need much out of Rivers, right? Just don't turn the ball over. Just pick up 3rd and 6s and get the team in the right play. Be able to recognize defenses, which we know he can do. Switch into running plays and find the gaps and find the place to put the football with your talented offensive line. I just think that's why early they could get off to a very quick start, a very good start because of their running game.
Yeah, it's not the greatest schedule that they have. I mean, I don't really think anybody in the South has it. But, yeah, I really think they can go toe-to-toe with anyone. They're not as good as the Ravens. They're not as good as the Chiefs. But really, other than that, especially, again, Taylor is going to be an absolute monster. I mean, I don't know when that's going to happen this year, but by the end of the year, running behind that offensive line.
Do you like him Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do. It's either him or, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's now got the clear road to go in Kansas City because of Damian Williams opting out.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know, man. I think in the beginning, I think what could hold him back is that in the beginning, I do think that Marlon Mack is going to factor in more than people realize. Now there are these reports going out, be like, oh, he looks really good in camp and stuff like that. I always thought that's what it was going to be. You're not going to turn it over immediately. You're just not with no preseason games. But I do think that by the end of the year, Taylor is going to be an absolute monster. I have futures on Keyshawn Vaughn winning Rookie of the Year, so nice. I think those are not nice. That's not going to work out for us. I don't think, given the Bucs and given how Rojo's looking. You mentioned the Texans. The Texans to me are a team. I always think that the Texans should go under, and then they somehow manage to sort of pull it out. Are you on the under here on 7.5, or do you?
Yeah, if I had to be. I mean, look at so you have a quarterback and head coach continuity standpoint, right? Mm-hmm. But I think there's some real problems inside that locker room, and Bill O'Brien, he's from my hometown, so I always preface this because I hate crapping on the guy. Yeah. So I want him to do well, and I've followed him for years, whether it be with the quarterback coach of the Patriots and now head coach of the Houston Texans. I just think the move to get rid of Nuke Hopkins was a huge mistake, and I just think you don't trade away a DeAndre Hopkins ever, and you have a quarterback that wants a new contract, who's watching everyone else get paid, and he wants to get paid, and there's questions as to whether or not your coach / GM wants to pay him, and I think that's a huge issue and a huge problem. I just think J.J. Watt getting hurt too consistently, every year he's getting banged up, he's getting older as well. I don't like the Texans this year at all.
Neither do I, and it's going to really piss me off when they go 10-6 and win the division.
It ain't happening,
right?
It's not happening. They're not going 10-6. They're not going to be in this division. They're not good enough to contend with both the the Titans or the Colts. So right there, that's why they're not going 10-6. I can tell you right now.
I completely believe you, and I think that every year that's some other good. Out of curiosity, 4.5, a ridiculous number for the Jaguars, under or over if you had to go.
If I had to go, I'd go over, just because it's you never know. It's pro football, so it's hard to go 4-12. But I mean, I wouldn't bet it. I mean, who's their quarterback? Is Gardner Minshew actually a good quarterback or not? I don't know.
I like him. I'll be honest. I kind of like him. I really do, and not just because he dresses like the way I feel inside. You know what I mean? I do like him. Again, he was quality. What I like about him, again, really, really good on deep passing. He was the best deep passer, even though he doesn't have that strong of an arm. He was the best deep passer in the NFL last year. Best. He had the best passer rating on passes that traveled over 20 yards. And I like, he can extend plays with his legs. I'm not saying I would hitch my wagon, to him for the rest of my franchise, but in terms of what he's able to do, and that's one of the reasons why I think I lean towards the over. Maybe I don't like their defense, but I do think that their offense is going to be fairly capable under Minshew.
Yeah, run the ball more, hopefully. I mean, I hate the coaching staff. I just think that there's so many issues there, and they 3 years ago that team was tremendous. I mean, there was just so many talented guys on that roster. We thought the Jaguars finally were going to make some real noise, and then just so many players were either cut or let go or got hurt. So it's tough to be a Jaguar fan, and I still think that one day that team's playing in London. So if I had to bet it, I would bet the over, just because it's hard to go 4-12.
And again, the Dolphins, the Bengals, the Lions, the Bears, they're winnable games there, right? For them. So and it's the NFL, like you said, above all. All right, let's hit our last division here. The Chiefs over under 11.5, over at -130, even on the under. The Broncos are over under 7.5, -125 on the over, even on the under. Chargers over under 8, minus 125 on the over, even on the under. And the Raiders over under 7, even on the over, minus 106 on the under. So you made one of these your futures play, I believe, in like an early episode of The Juice, but you like the Raiders. Is that right?
I like the Raiders over 7 wins. And after I made that bet, I was talking to a sports book friend of mine, and I said, so how do I feel? How do you feel about me betting on the Raiders over? And he said, what, you and the rest of the town? I said, oh, really? He said, put it this way. As of August the 1st, there was one book here in Vegas who had not taken a single under bet on the Raiders for their win total.
Oh, my gosh.
Every single bet was on the over. So when you're running with the masses like that, I can't stand it. But I'm not going to back off of it. Look, I think this is a big year for Derek Carr. This is a chance for him to show he can play inside of this offense. Henry Ruggs is coming in. You have a guy who can take the top off the defense. Running game with Josh Jacobs is tremendous. Maybe the best offensive line in football. They've got a defense that needs to step up and play better. But I think this is a team that is poised with the talent. Look, Mike Mayock has done a very good job drafting the last 2 years. You can hate on the guy and not like him. I'm a big fan. I think he's done a great job. You can hate on Gruden, fine. But this team just to go 8-8, yeah, I'm going over. Raiders 8-8.
I mean, I can't get there. Like I'm not going under because I don't necessarily think that they're going to win 6. But this is Tyrell Williams. It's not as if he was a dominant person, but he's already dealing with the labrum tear. I like Hunter Renfrow, but again, you've got rookies coming in. Ruggs is the type of rookie. Rookie wide receivers, by the way, they make me particularly nervous as to how they're going to be able to adapt in this environment, right? Especially because you just don't have time. Ruggs is the one guy of all the rookie receivers that I don't really worry about, just because, again, you can be like, hey, here's what we're going to do, run a 5-yard slant, and then just go to the house, right? He scored a touchdown on a quarter of his receptions in college, so he is there. But, this is a tough division, man, and their schedule, it's not that great. It's just something where... yeah, I don't really love him. Is there anybody in the West then who you think is not going to be as good as expected then? Do you like the unders on any of the teams in the West?
I'm seeing more and more hype on the Broncos, and I understand that the Broncos have drafted, but like you mentioned about rookie wide receivers, I think the Broncos eventually might be really good.
Yeah.
But how good is Drew Lock? And you're asking him to play with a bunch of guys he hasn't had a chance to play in a real game with right out of the gate.
Yep.
So that's my worry. Everyone's like, oh, Broncos over, and look at the defense and Von Miller and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, to me, I would lean under on the Broncos simply because you're asking Drew Lock to get to know these guys very fast and to be able to get on the same plan. Noah Fant, I know there's some guys out there who put up some big numbers and they got some guys coming back, but I'm curious about continuity for that offense. And if you need that offense to score a bunch of points, which you're going to, if you look at the offense with the division with the Chargers, Chiefs, and the Raiders, you got to score to be in contention in this division. I don't think the Broncos are there yet. I mean, eventually, if Lock's the guy, then next year. But I would go under this year.
Could not agree more. It's not something where I'm running out to be like, ooh, give me the under on the Broncos, because they could easily surprise. Their defense is legitimate. I love Jerry Jeudy. I really do. I think he's going to have an incredibly bright future, and he could be great this year. It is Lock for me, and I don't want to say that he'll never develop into areas like, oh, he went 4-1 last year. He didn't do anything to really get there. I was not impressed with him. And again, continuity. It's a new offensive coordinator coming in here, right? With Pat Shurmur, you've got a new system. You've got rookie wide receivers that are already dealing with an injury to Hamler. Melvin Gordon, fine, but their running game was, I don't know. Melvin Gordon doesn't move the needle for me. And obviously, when you're talking over-unders, you don't really care that much about running backs. That's not really what does it. But, to me, I don't know, man. I'm not buying this either. It's just not a team that I really want to invest in. What about the Chargers, though? Because the Chargers are an interesting team to me. I love their defense. I think Tyrod Taylor, not a great quarterback, but certainly more than capable, 22-20 as a starter. They're going to have a good running game with Austin Eckler. They drafted Kelly. They've got Jackson. Their receivers still are there with, Mike Williams now dealing with an injury, but Keenan Allen. Got Hunter Henry as a good tight end. I think they're going to be able to play conservatively, lean on their defense, lean on their run game, get enough there. I kind of like the Chargers going over the 8 wins. What do you think?
All right, if you could tell me that the Chargers stay healthy, I'll buy it.
Okay.
But this team can't stay healthy.
Yep.
I mean, they get hurt every year. They have catastrophic injuries, massive injuries. Every time I feel like I'm backing the Chargers, something really horrible happens, and they lose a player, or they lose a quarterback, or starting left tackle, or strong safety. It's really amazing.
Are they cursed? Are you like, well, I like the Chargers, but the Chargers are an injury team, so they're going to have 70 injuries.
So so I can't bet the over because I don't trust it. I mean, I would lean towards the over, but they've got the talent. Tyrod. I mean, here's the other question: how many games is Tyrod Taylor playing this year? Because
16.
if they lose,
16.
I mean, Herbert. There's going to be a lot of pressure to play Herbert.
Nope.
So I don't know in terms of like if you're 0-4 to start hypothetically, like just say they got off to an awful start.
Fair.
Well, then why are you playing Tyrod Taylor? Just play Herbert. I mean, the year is lost anyway. Just give him a year to get ready to get used to playing NFL football, and then have him good to go for next year when there's fans in stands and whatnot. So I mean, it's interesting watching Hard Knocks and watching how tough of a time he's having adapting to the NFL and taking snaps under center, and the fact that he can't. His cadence is wrong, like getting scolded about not being able to hike the football right is a little scary for a guy with a first-round pick. But I don't know how long that job's going to be Tyrod Taylor's, so that's why I'm also a little afraid of betting the over.
Yeah, I think he starts the whole year. I mean, yes, you are correct. If he starts 0-4, I don't think they're going to. If he starts 0-4, then maybe you could see it. But I think really it's just not a good idea to throw a guy, whatever the team is doing for that year, to throw him into an NFL team when he's not ready to go. And I think that Herbert is not ready to go. I don't think he's going to be ready to go by week 5. I don't think he's going to be ready to go by week 8. I don't think he's going to be ready to go. Right, he's a project. So let him sit on the bench for a year and learn. And yeah, obviously, if they get injured like they do every year, of course, like what are you going to do about that? They got a lot of winnable games. And remember, even with how bad they were last year, even with how bad Phillip Rivers played, they easily could have had a decent year if they just flipped the script a little bit on the one-score games, right? They just lost tons of one-score games. So, to me, with that defense, you've got Bosa and you've got Ingram, Linval Joseph. But right now, I think Tyrod Taylor is going to start the whole year, and I think that in the end, they're going to be a pretty decent team. So I kind of like them on the over. I do get the concern, though.
Your point about losing one-score games is interesting because if you remember a couple of years ago, the Raiders won a bunch of one-score games. Mm-hmm. And that caused everyone to kind of hammer on the under for their win total. I think it was like 7.5 or 8.5, and they didn't come anywhere. I think it went 6-10 because of all the one-score games they had won the year before. And I think you're right. I think you go the other way here, where if you lose a bunch of one-score games, just math, just odds, just the way sports works, that it evens out. And so next year, this coming year, they win a bunch of those games.
Right.
And if they win a bunch of those games, most likely they're sitting right behind the Chiefs and probably in a wild card spot and playing in a wild card game. And we'll see what happens with how they'll perform in the playoffs. But if it's Tyrod or Herbert or whatnot.
Right.
But I think this team. This is why I like Hard Knocks, because I wasn't sure about Anthony Lynn, and I wasn't sure if the team liked him all that much and wanted to play hard for him. And watching Hard Knocks really has changed my opinion about him in Los Angeles. And I do think that team is all in on him, and I do think if they're healthy, they'll be a team to watch.
Yeah, I kind of like what they're doing. And again, remember, they were losing those games. They weren't healthy, and they're never healthy, as you sort of mentioned. So now you combine health, you flip the script a little bit. I think they can get past 8 wins. Let's finish up with the Chiefs. Again, like the Ravens, another big number. Like the Ravens, another team that's just like, okay, you want continuity? I mean, the Chiefs are legitimately identical to last year, except that they've basically replaced Damian Williams with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So 11.5. Is this one where you'd be like, if you are forcing me to bet, you'd go over? Or is this one if you'd shy away given the number?
Look, in the pandemic, they may go 15-1.
Right.
I mean, they might. I mean, I don't. This is. I look at this team and I see the Patriots of 2007, and I just see an absolute offensive buzzsaw that it doesn't really matter until the playoffs to expose some of their weaknesses. And I think there are weaknesses like the 07 Patriots. There were weaknesses on that defense, and there are weaknesses on that defense still for the Chiefs. And I do think they're going to be in salary cap jail very soon for all the big deals that they have done. And I do think that if there is a drop in the salary cap due to the COVID in the pandemic, and they have to drop it down, that they'll be cutting or trading players. But for 2020, they're the best team in football, and it's not even a debate. And I don't really see, they may drop a game or 2 games, but Yeah, they're going over that number in my mind.
Yeah, me too. I don't think they've gone under their win total under Andy Reid. I think I saw that stat somewhere. I can't remember where it is, so whoever put it out, I'm sorry about that. But I think since Andy Reid got to the Chiefs, they've gone over their win total every year. I can't verify that, but I read that somewhere. Here's, for me, the one thing that we didn't talk about, by the way, with the Ravens and the Chiefs, there's one bye this year, Matt, right? There's one playoff bye. You don't have the top 2 seeds, right? And so if you've got the Ravens and you've got the Chiefs, even if they win their division and even if they're cruising to the top 2 seeds, they got to keep going. You know what I mean? They may be 13-2 heading into that final week and be like, shoot, we don't have the bye right now. You know what I mean? They may be going full bore the entire year just to get that one locked up. So I think that's a little extra motivation when you're going, but I agree. I think it's over,
Yeah, I just think it's a team where they are doing things offensively, and bringing in Edwards-Helaire as well is going to be another addition. I mean, another step forward for that offense. Young guy with tons of tread on the tire who can catch the football, a bowling ball to run through that offensive line. I just think that they are doing things right now that it's going to make it so difficult for teams to stop them. And look, Tyreek Hill's injury is a little scary, and I was going to recommend on BettingPros, I need to see him if I can play a game, because Week 1 on Thursday night against the Texans, the Chiefs are laying 10, and I think they're going to destroy the Texans by like 30. But I need Tyreek Hill to be healthy in those games. But I think folks are going to be coming in, I think the sports books are going to need whoever the Chiefs are playing every single week this year.
Yeah. No, absolutely. They're going to be an incredibly public team. And, the thing is, again, you saw it share in the playoffs. That was my favorite live betting experience, by the way, is when they fell behind the Texans and just waiting for the
both
odds.
Games.
You knew what was going to happen in game. You're just, no, wait for it. You knew the odds eventually were going to go where you could sort of fire one off. And, man, I don't know. I got to be honest, mate. See, you talk betting every day on the podcast and on your radio show. This is like my first chance to have really gotten into a discussion about it. This is getting the juices flowing. You know what I mean? We get 2 weeks from today. We're recording this on Thursday. 2 weeks from today, opening night. I'm so excited. Thank you for
Chiefs
coming.
Chiefs laying 10.
Let's do it. Come on, Tyreek Hill, be healthy so we can go all in on it. Thanks for coming on, man. I can't wait to talk about it more. Next week, we'll talk about what we're going to be doing in season. But for now, I really appreciate you joining me for this one, and it was a good time, man.
Can't wait for next week.
All right, don't forget to head over to bettingpros.com, check out all our consensus lines, and do not forget to check out the Daily Juice podcast hosted by Matt Perrault, who you heard here today. It is a really, really good listen. I would listen to it even if I didn't invent the concept and have to give Matt feedback. It's really great. It's every single day, and Matt, offers a lot of insight. We will be back next week talking about the NFC, and then, man, we are talking about Week 1, ready to go. We'll talk to you then.